The Alabama Farmers Federation and the Alabama Farmers Cooperative proudly present Simply Southern with your hosts Jim Allen and Mary Johnson.
Hello and welcome to Simply Southern. I'm Mary Johnson.
And I'm Jim Allen. Coming up on today's show, it's been a terrible year for Alabama's farmers. On the heels of a drought that withered crops in 2016, this year has been the exact opposite because of flooding rains.
We've had probably 15, 20 inches of rain, some places with even more than that.
What do red noses, bucking bulls, and medical scrubs have in common? Samantha Carpenter will fill us in a little later.
All the teachers in school would say, look, acting like a clown will get you nowhere in life. And last year, I was 40,000+ miles driving all over the country, acting like a clown.
And as you plan your vacation, Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants has a suggestion of how to keep your plants alive while you're away from home.
But up next, we'll take a behind-the-scenes tour of a Cooperage. No, it's not a fancy chicken house.
We're the only major manufacturer that produces its own barrels, and we do that to control the quality of our barrels, because the quality of the barrels is important as it plays into the flavor.
Simply Southern will be right back.
What we eat, what we wear. It all starts somewhere. And if it's good, it usually starts with a farmer. And that somewhere is right here in Alabama. In a field, in a barn, on a tractor. Right now, there's a farmer starting something good for all of us. And it all starts right here in Alabama.
There's no such thing as downtime when you own a farm. This is your land. You tend it and try to get the most from it, no matter the weather or time of day. It's been that way for generations. And for generations, your local quality co-op store has been there for you, with a full range of agriculture supplies and services, from feed to fertilizer, seed to grain storage, and the right hardware for any application. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
Welcome back, folks. A Cooperage is a place where they manufacture barrels. Way back before metal and plastic became all the rage, wooden barrels were an important part of transporting and storing nearly anything you could think of. That's less true today, but there's still one industry where they're as good as gold. Even though he's a Tennessee boy, I'm sure most of us are familiar with Jack Daniels, the life of many a friendly get-together and unsung co-author of countless country songs. Old Number 7 is undoubtedly America's most famous bottle of whiskey. To arrive at the kind of success Gentleman Jack has enjoyed for more than a century, you have to pay attention to details, like wood.
We're the only major manufacturer that produces its own barrels, and we do that to control the quality of our barrels, because the quality of the barrels is important as it plays into the flavor. So 100% of the color and 50 to 60% of the flavor is the responsibility of the barrel. So that's why it's so important for us here in Little Trinity, Alabama.
The 60-acre Cooperage is one of two barrel-making facilities owned and operated by Jack Daniels, the other being located in Louisville, Kentucky. In his 3 years at the Trinity plant, Derek has seen the operation expand from just around 50 employees to nearly 150 today.
We ended up here in Trinity mainly for a couple reasons. One is the location to our source, which is the mills, roughly 90 miles in either direction, and then we're roughly about 90 miles away from Jack Daniels. But in addition to that, it's an industrial town, and so we've got the ability to pull folks that are used to working in harsh climates like we have, and don't mind it. The official grand opening date was July 7th, 2014. We started off in the early days probably making close to 40 or 50 barrels a day was a success, and so now we're up north of anywhere between 800 and 1,200 barrels in a given day.
Using locally sourced white oak from two nearby company-owned mills, the Cooperage will turn out, on average, 200,000 barrels over the course of a year. With such a seemingly simple thing being such a vital part of the Jack Daniels process, it shouldn't be surprising just how much goes into a wooden container, but it's still impressive to watch.
Every bit of wood, once it's brought into the factory, is processed through what we call a pre-manufacturing operation, and that allows us to cut it down to the right size or length. And then we go through a planing process, and that planing process allows us to check any defects, so any wormholes, any sap, anything like that would impact the flavor. And then we process it through a jointing system or machine, and that allows us to put a profile cut on it. That allows us to raise the barrel in that unique circular fashion.
After achieving its basic shape, each barrel goes through a proprietary toasting process exclusive to the end Jack Daniel's product, which means TV hosts and their cameras are not allowed.
The reason for the toasting process is truly to bring the natural flavors of the wood to the surface. The chocolates, the caramels, the vanillas, bring those to the surface. That's what toasting does.
After going through the toasting process, the barrels are briefly set ablaze to seal in at the surface the flavors achieved during the toasting operation. From there, a hole is drilled into the barrel before filling it with air and water to check for any leaks in the structure. After passing final quality checks, the barrels are loaded onto trucks, ready to do their part in creating America's Black Label favorite.
We know what we do is important to not just, the folks up the road at the distillery, but when a consumer picks that product up off the shelf and enjoys it responsibly, we know we had a hand in that. And so in some form or fashion, we're part of that celebration that is occurring at some home or some business, some place in this state and this country and across 160 plus countries of the world. So we know it.
The Cooperage currently is not set up for public tours, but take about an hour-and-a-half drive up the road to Lynchburg, Tennessee, and you can tour the Jack Daniel's distillery itself. Get more information at jackdaniels.com.
And at that Cooperage, they even make different kinds of barrels for different Jack Daniel's products too.
They do, and after they age the Jack Daniels in the barrels, they dismantle them and ship them over to Scotland to make Scotch whiskey on them.
Okay, so save a little shipping space that way.
That's
Dismantle
right.
them, put them back together. All right, when Simply Southern continues, send in the clowns. Samantha Carpenter gets some lessons from a rodeo funny man next.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
Support healthy food from local farmers by purchasing a Farming Feeds Alabama license plate. The tag funds education and promotion efforts, including Ag in the Classroom, agricultural scholarships, and youth programs. Get your Ag tag today.
For 100 years, every Bonnie plant has started with two hands and a mission: to put fresh, homegrown herbs and vegetables on every table in America.
Who are you talking to?
The plants, they like it. Success starts and ends with Bonnie plants.
Alabama soybean farmers help fuel the state's economy. Soybeans are used to make clean, renewable biodiesel and are a key ingredient in feed for poultry, catfish, and livestock. Soybeans are used in dozens of products we use every day. But best of all, soybean farmers generate $258 million and more than 4,000 jobs for Alabama's economy, all while helping conserve our natural resources. Explore the power of soy.
Traditionally, the clown running around at the rodeo is a riskier line of work than their big top cousins. Both are good for jokes, silly dances, and maybe a pratfall or two. But up until recent times, the rodeo clown's biggest job was getting between a bull rider and the angry ton of beast looking for payback. While the life of a modern rodeo clown is more about humor than horns and hooves, they can still find themselves wearing many hats inside and sometimes even outside the arena.
Getting ready to go to work can get pretty involved for Trent McFarland, but his career path is a little bit outside the typical 9 to 5.
Sultry. Well, I was looking for a job where a man can make a good living wearing makeup, and there's only a few options. No, I'm joking.
Joking is something Trent knows a lot about. For more than 20 years, He's been bringing smiles and laughter to arenas across the Southeast as a professional rodeo clown.
Growing up, all the teachers in school would say, look, acting like a clown will get you nowhere in life. And last year, I was 40,000+ miles driving all over the country, acting like a clown. So I guess I kind of proved them wrong a little.
Trent began performing for rodeo audiences as a child, following in the footsteps of his father, who had been a rodeo clown himself for many years.
The first rodeo I did was Selma, Alabama. And so I was 13, that was really cool. I'll never forget the feeling of what it was like to step out in front of the crowd. And of course I was scared. And I told Dad, I said, what if a bull comes at me? He said, oh, son, the worst they can do is kill you. They can't eat you. I think that's supposed to make me feel better. But needless to say, I knew I was hooked on it.
It shouldn't be surprising that Trent fell in love with the rodeo girl. And now the proud parents of 2 young boys, they have become the textbook definition of a rodeo family.
We always vowed that if we were going to do this and he was going to pursue his rodeo career, that we would do it as a family and travel as a family. And Cody is 2.5, Ryder just turned 1. And so they are starting to get more involved and starting to put makeup on and, following in their daddy's footsteps.
Wendy's childhood love of horses initially led her to the rodeo as a barrel racer. While she continues to perform on horseback today, being married to a rodeo clown has a way of expanding your skill set.
She carries American flag during the opening and she looks gorgeous, right? But then, when her husband needs her to be in the clown act, she is the greatest assistant, no matter what it is. She will ham it up with the best of them. Whether she's got to act like she's a ditzy blonde or she's mad at me, which I guess when she acts like she's mad at me, she's not really acting.
While the rodeo can be a full-time job, Trent and Wendy's days aren't all horseplay and clowning around.
Trent's a surgical nurse, a RNFA at Baptist South here in Montgomery. And so he works Monday through Thursday in surgery. And then normally Thursday nights we hit the road where I'm actually in marketing and advertising. I have a home office I'm at 2 days a week. And then on Fridays I work out of our horse trailer.
Most patients would be understandably nervous being wheeled into surgery by a clown. But Trent says that for him, the 2 jobs actually go hand in hand.
As we're rolling into surgery with a patient, I'll be telling them jokes and they're laughing and it kind of helps relax them. And then when a cowboy gets injured, I'm the first one out there to him. So I can make a quick assessment of how serious this is, or if he's just trying to show off for his girlfriend up there in the stands, hey buddy, get up, you stumped your toe, quit whining.
Where once they were a last line of defense between a cowboy and an angry bull, today's rodeo clown is more about making people laugh. But this isn't exactly a circus ring. In an arena full of bucking broncs and charging livestock, Trent has occasionally found himself on the wrong side of the stethoscope. But every time the rodeo rolls into a new town, all the bumps, bruises, and long days on the road pay off.
You can't turn the TV on without having bad news show up. So to be able to go out there and provide a family who may be struggling, going through hard times, 2.5 hours, to enjoy themselves and sit back, relax, have a good time with their family, that's the greatest job in the world to me. Whenever the crowd is right there in your hands and you're making them laugh and they're loving what you're doing, it's great. It's like a high I can never explain.
For Simply Southern, I'm Samantha Carpenter.
If you're interested in learning more about Trent's antics, visit TrentMcFarland.com.
I've seen him several times, and if you ever get a chance, check this man out. He is funny.
He really is, and he's carrying on a tradition too. He's a second-generation rodeo clown, following in his dad's footsteps, and of course you saw his sons love it as well.
It's a family affair. A lot of people think that farmers are always hoping for rain, but that's not true. Up next on Simply Southern, you'll see how too much of a good thing can cause problems.
One out of 4 Alabama residents have benefited from the Alabama Cooperative Extension System. Last year, Master Gardener Managed Gardens donated $150,000 worth of fruits and vegetables to food banks, and over 25,000 young people developed math, science, technology, and engineering skills through 4-H. Now what we want to know is, how can we help you?
Support healthy food from local farmers by purchasing a Farming Feeds Alabama license plate. The tag funds education and promotion efforts, including Ag in the Classroom, agricultural scholarships, and youth programs. Get your Ag tag today.
Alabama wheat and feed grain farmers grow food, fuel, and freedom. Their harvest helps feed Alabama's multi-million-dollar livestock, catfish, and poultry industries while reducing America's dependence on foreign countries for energy and food. By combining their strength with farmers of other commodities, feed grain growers are fueling the economic growth of Alabama communities.
Nothing brings the family together like U.S. farm-raised catfish. American catfish farmers are dedicated to producing a premium, healthy catfish with a consistently mild, sweet flavor. Because we take as much pride in our work as you do in your cooking. From our family farms to your family's table, you can be sure you're getting the highest quality fish. Because your family deserves the best. U.S. farm-raised catfish.
Year in and year out, the weather is one of the biggest challenges farmers face, and this year has been no exception. After dealing with extreme drought last year, far too much rain made it nearly impossible for farmers to plant their crops this spring. And as Kevin Worthington tells us, some growers had to plant seeds a number of times in the same fields because of the excessive water.
To say that the month of May was unusually wet would be a vast understatement.
We've had probably 15, 20 inches of rain. Some places with even more than that. But it's been definitely a wet planting spring.
Oddly enough, Kevin Holland says just a month before planting, he was worried about a continuation of last year's drought.
Typical dry April, got all the field work done. We're sitting in really good shape. Typically we start planting around the first week of May, but this year temperatures were actually below normal for a couple of days. We got in the 40s, which is just not very good for planting cotton or peanuts. They love hot weather, and so we decided to wait. And waited, and the weather warmed up, and it started raining. And it's been a battle since about the middle of May. We caught up on that dry spell from April.
Kevin says he likes to have cotton and peanuts planted on his entire 3,200-acre farm between the 1st and 31st of May. But because of delays caused by torrential rains, that just wasn't possible this year.
Every time it rains, it's a drying period after the fact. When you get these 5-inch rains in an afternoon, it takes several days for just the ponding to get off the fields. And the next problem we have after we've planted, when the water stands on it, the actual water will drown the seed. So we have a lot of replanting to do. And it's just a compounding issue when you have multiple large rains in a short period of time.
Ultimately, the rain caused Kevin a 2-week delay in completing his planting. Now, that may not seem like a big deal now, but come harvest time, he says, days become critical.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but 2 weeks later today means that it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks later maturing in the fall. And just because your days get shorter, get cooler, and we don't have the heat units to push the crop along.
Even if a more normal weather pattern returns, Kevin says he's lost money on this crop because of the additional seed he had to purchase for replanting.
Total replant, we'll have somewhere between 400 to 450 acres of cotton and peanuts combined. Economically, $120 to $130 an acre, just off the top of my head. It's an expense that you just have to eat and move on. And that's not even including the actual cost of running the machines again and paying the labor to do it again. It's just the actual physical seed cost.
One bright spot for farmers is the corn crop. Most of it had already been planted before the rain started, and corn needs more moisture than either cotton or peanuts.
Most people have probably seen corn across the state. It looks really good, and you know, they think that that will be a really good crop this year. But as far as our other crops, it is totally dependent on what the weather does for the rest of the growing season. You know, if the rains, it could be a different story if the rains stop. You know, it could get too dry. And that's what most of the farmers say. You know, they don't want to say they don't want any rain because they know that they're only a week from a drought. So, you know, it's important that the rains keep falling in a timely manner.
We're still in good shape. We've just got to, you know, we'll see what the good Lord gives us at the end. So a couple of timely rains and a little bit of heat, we'll be in good shape. But that's always an optimistic farmer.
For Simply Southern, I'm Kevin Worthington.
Because of the planting delays, some farmers are afraid their fall harvest will be delayed as much as a month while they wait for the crops to mature.
And you saw southeast Alabama there, but this is really a problem across the entire state, even as far up into Jackson County into the mountains.
Yeah, where I'm from in North Alabama, we've got a lot of yellow cotton seedlings, and that's just too much water.
Yeah, it's a rough year for our farmers. When Simply Southern continues, Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants has an idea to help keep your plants alive while you're on vacation. Containers that water your plants automatically.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
There's nothing quite like sitting down to a home-cooked meal with fresh vegetables from the garden. With Bonnie Plants from your local quality co-op store, you can enjoy the freshest vegetables right from your own backyard. And no matter if you're a raised bed gardener, a rose gardener, or if you farm hundreds of acres, your quality co-op store has exactly what you need to get the most out of your plants. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
FFA makes a positive difference in the lives of students by developing their potential for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education.
We're strengthening American agriculture and providing our members with the skills needed to build healthy local communities, a strong nation, and a sustainable world.
We are the next generation of agriculture.
It's our turn now.
Let's show the world what we can achieve together.
We are FFA.
For 100 years, every Bonnie plant has started with two hands and a mission: to put fresh, homegrown herbs and vegetables on every table in America.
Who are you talking to?
The plants, they like it. Success starts and ends with Bonnie Plants.
Hey folks, Sidney Phelps here with Bonnie Plants. Today I want to talk about containers that self-water. Now, we kind of refer to them as a vacation planter because you only have to water these about every 2 weeks. So if you're on the go or you're not home very much, or it's just one of those things that you tend to forget, this is really a surefire way to have a great garden in your backyard and be really extremely low maintenance. The container that I've got in front of me today is one provided by Crescent Gardens, and you can find their stuff a lot. They're very popular. It's a good container. It's a 10-year warranty, and we've already got it preset with soil, but when you get ready to set it up, it's got a little instruction booklet that tells you how to prep, how to plan the soil and everything like that. So basically what we did was we took that out, put a little bit of water in the bottom. We're starting to get a read on our valve here. So the dial will tell you if it's 1/3 full, 2/3 full, or completely full. If nothing is in the dial, that means that there's no water in the plant, and that means that you just need to unscrew this top and add water. So we've got some soil in here, and basically what I'm gonna make is a pollinator garden. It's pineapple, sage, chives, and lavender. So very heavy in aroma, very low maintenance, and they're gonna bloom, and when they bloom, it's not like basil that's gonna go bitter. So what we're gonna do is start off by planting our pineapple sage. So they're in the biodegradable pots. We're just gonna cut the rim, tear the top off out of it, and just break the bottom off, and just make you a hole here in the pot. So dig you a hole, place in your plant, run your soil back over top, and then we're just gonna repeat that for the other 4 products. Just kind of move them around. Put them around the outer edge of the pot is fine. And once again, just make sure you tear that off. Dig yourself out a hole. And the cool thing about these pots, the reason why they're self-watering is roots typically are going to go down. That's the way that the whole thing operates is when you're planting a plant, it's going down looking for water. And as it's doing that, that's what's the cool thing about these pots is all your water's down in this lower reservoir. These are double wall pots and all that water's in the lower reservoir, so the roots are going straight down. They're pulling up the nutrients that they need, and simple as that. I mean, it's very easy. You're going to water them in from the top. As far as your fertilization goes, if you're using a water-soluble fertilizer, you want to apply it to the top. You don't want to mix it in with the container. That is not recommended via their instructions, but you just want to apply it to the top. So we got our last hole to dig here. And soil count's going to vary depending on how many plants you're putting in here. So we're putting 4 in. But these are really neat projects that you can find. You can pick these pots up at your local garden center. There's a lot of different options for self-watering these days. You got little small 7-inch planters all the way up to these big 16-inch. So we've got this planted. We're going to water it in on top, add a little bit of fertilizer to it or plant food, and let it get set up and ready to go. You can find these projects, like I said, on bonnieplants.com. Or you can check out the app Homegrown with Bonnie Plants. But this little pollinator garden will have hummingbirds, bees, everything coming straight to it, and you won't have to worry about it. Sit on the patio, water every 2 weeks. A cool vacation idea that you can have on your yard.
If you have a gardening question, drop Sidney an email at simplysouthern@alafarm.com and he may answer it on an upcoming show. Of course, you can always visit bonnieplants.com for new ideas and additional information.
We're out of time for this week. Thanks for watching. Make plans to join us again next week when we'll go along with a group of ladies who are learning the values of Alabama's forests.
And I'll be living out every kid's dreams surrounded by millions of cookies fresh from the oven at an Alabama cookie factory. But before we go, here are links to some of the stories we featured today. I'm Mary Johnson.
And I'm Jim Allen. We'll see you again next week.
Simply Southern is a production of the Alabama Farmers Cooperative and the Alabama Farmers Federation.